Hello, everyone. Welcome to SureFire Training Academy. I'm Mark Stoner, and we're not live tonight. We are still troubled with Facebook's permission to group, so we're just going to record it. And tonight, I'm super excited to have a guy who's become a really good friend of mine, Sam Lawton. I met him a few years ago at a convention. He walked up to me and we became fast friends, and we're drummers and we are friends, and we're also we do the accelerator program together, and Sam is a huge contributor. And we were talking the other day, and I said, man, I need to get you on the show, and this turns into my podcast as well. And as usual, was very graceful and gracious, I should say, and said he'd love to do it. So let me bring on Sam. Hey, buddy.
Hey, Mark.
How are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, man, it's always great. Are you getting ready for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, actually, this year is going to be wild. We are hosting both sides of the family at the same time under one roof. It's going to be wild. My wife and I are freaking out a little bit.
Right.
You know how it is. You got the peak season going on. Kids are going crazy. House isn't clean yet. Yard work needs done, the whole shebang, and then still trying to find some time to be thankful in there, right? So
Yeah. It's funny. My wife we have a cleaning crew that comes in, and she cleans the house before the cleaning crew comes in. I'm like, what are you doing? We got to get it ready for them to clean.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
well, man, thanks for joining me tonight. I know you're busy. I know you got a million things going, and now you got all this for Thanksgiving. But I thought your story is just really it's really great, and there's a lot of guys that would probably be inspired to hear kind of your journey, where you are now, where you plan on going, how you got to where you are. A lot of people, you never know who's watching, but some of them are just thinking about starting a business. And can you tell people kind of how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely don't want to pretend like I've arrived or anything like that. Still no Mark Stoner, but taking strides to get there one day. Really inspired by you, Mark, and your story and your journey. I remember reading your book for the first time and kind of learning about your music background.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of kindred spirits there. So I also come from a music background. So I did not grow up in the trades. I'm not a third generation Mason or anything like that. My dad was a dentist. I was very blessed to grow up in a good household. And so I pursued music. It was just in my DNA from a young age. I actually picked up the violin and was classically trained. And in high school or middle school, I learned pretty quickly that that wasn't the cool thing. I wasn't getting any attention from girls from playing violin. And for those of you that know the band Yellow Card, that was my one excuse to try and be cool, and that just didn't work. So I ended up actually picking up electric guitar and then drums in high school. I went to school for music business. I started recording music, and eventually that led me to a short professional career where I toured on the road with the country artist for about 2 years as a drummer, and had an absolute blast doing that. When I wasn't doing that, I was teaching lessons. I was producing talent in a recording studio that I had started and ran that business for a little while, and then eventually kind of cut my teeth on producing my own music and running with that for a while. And kind of like your story, I had some success and some momentum going. And long story short, unlike the service industry, the music business, there is quite a bit of luck involved.
Yeah.
And right place, right time. And I discovered that there's some, rocket science to it that I just couldn't quite get the traction I wanted and needed. And I needed to do something just so different. I was going through a little bit of just kind of a mental breakdown, I guess you could say, and just needed a hard reset. Something that I was very passionate about wasn't quite panning out the way that I wanted. And, I know we've all walked through moments in our life where we've had.
That's a hard place to be when you're there and you dream and you've been told to follow your dreams and don't give up on your dreams, and you've got a talent and you're really good, and people are like, wow, you should be famous. And like, man, that is a tough That is a tough place to be, man.
I mean, you've seen this, Mark. I mean, being in Nashville, you probably know 100 people that are extremely talented and are still waiting tables just to play that next gig, you know. And I learned pretty quickly that it wasn't just about talent. It wasn't just about writing a great song. There's so much of, you know, who you know, right place, right time, you know, with a sprinkle of luck in there. And yeah, I kind of got to a point where I was in my earlier side of 20s, and I realized, okay, this is not the game that I want to play long term. I would like to have a family one day. I'd like to get married. I'd like to have some money in my bank account.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah,
nice.
that's a new one.
Yeah. Who would have thought? And I had already kind of done the struggling musician gig for a number of years, and wasn't super excited about doing that long term. So but I did want something that could kind of fund that, I guess, hobby at this point, or that passion. And I needed to make some side income. I found a local chimney company, and that's where I cut my teeth. Is I kind of came on as like the lowest guy on the pole, and I was nothing more than, literally, my title was waterproof technician. I don't
Wow,
even
they
think
had a
that
technician for just waterproofing.
yeah, man. I don't even think that's a term that even exists, or a title that exists anymore, or ever in the chimney world, except for me. I kicked that one off.
Yeah.
My one claim to fame, waterproof technician. Just to be real with you guys here. But what that did is that gave me exposure to something that otherwise I never would have tasted. And that was getting on, you know, all different kinds of homes, seeing a side of the city that I never would have seen before. You know, being young, I had energy. I found it fun to climb. I wasn't scared of heights. In fact, heights was a thrill for me. Um, and then interacting with customers, and literally my job was to go around and apply water repellent to chimneys. And through that, you know, the company saw that I had a little bit of, you know, people skills, and they gave me an opportunity just to kind of learn a thing or two, or give a stab at some sales. And from there, got a taste of the industry that I liked. You know, I liked interacting with people. I liked being on $200,000 homes all the way up to, you know, $2 million homes and more. And just thought that the clientele base, and just everything about it, was really, really interesting.
How
Um,
long ago was that?
oh man, that would have been 11, 12 years ago at this
Okay.
point.
Okay.
Yeah, 11 years ago. So, and anyway, I was kind of simultaneously still doing some music with that, because I was part-time, and never even went full-time with this company. And then I remember it so clearly, the day that I was pulled aside from my employer at that time, and you know, it was disclosed to me that the company was going through some turbulence, specifically around some payroll. And I was given the news that, hey, I'm one of the first to get cut here. So I was cut from the team, so to speak, and I was devastated, to say the least, and still feel some of the sting of that today. But I remember from that experience, it opened up the door for a whole new world of possibilities. And
Yeah.
my dad was the one who asked me, well, hey, you know, son, what do you want to do now? And I really did not know. I did not have a clue, and I couldn't see a clear path to just go back into music full time. I didn't want to just be a worship leader, or just be a music teacher, or, you know, go down that path, or just play night gigs, which these are all great things, but it's just not what I wanted to do. And he said, well, have you ever thought about starting your own business? And for those, you know, familiar with the disc profile, I'm a high I, very people oriented, and I got entrepreneurial in my spirit, and, you know, started kind of this recording studio business thing. I thought, well, why not? And I put myself to the test. It was just like, all right, is it possible to still grow a business from the grassroots without leveraging any kind of third party platform, advertising, anything, but just honest handshake type service? So, because of my creative background, I put all that creativity to use. I made my pitch, I designed a logo, and keep in mind, I knew basically nothing
Yeah.
about,
You're just
I had
figuring it out.
no formal chimney training. I wasn't certified. I was never given any training by the last company. My training was get in a truck and you can literally BS your way through this for a while. If you need a little help, give us a call. Maybe we can give you some tips here and there. And then we just did occasional like estimate review. I mean, and so probably the only skill, and at that point in time, wasn't even doing it correctly, was just knowing how to sweep a chimney. Like that was it.
Yeah.
So literally we are talking about me starting from the bottom of the bottom. And I don't have a trades background, right? So, but I knew how to talk to people. I made it a point that I was going to go out and knock on doors to try and start my business with
It's
nothing
legit,
but an
dude.
iPad, a blue button up, shirt that I got from Goodwill, a little bit of money in my bank account. And I started with driving my Ford Taurus X van, which is basically a hatchback is really what it is. And so I said, all right, I got nothing to lose. Let's go ahead and try this. So I literally went around knocking hundreds of doors. I had my pitch down, hey, this is Sam with Clean Sweep 317. We're in your area today offering free inspections. Is there any way I can serve you on your chimney or fireplace needs? And I remember it crystal clear. It was probably like my 40th or 50th house I'd knocked on. This gentleman opened the door and I gave my pitch and he stood back and he looked at me and goes, you know what? You're just the man I need. And at that point, it was like, man, spotlights are on. It was like, this is real now. This is happening. Are you ready? Big boy pants are on. Thank God I was able to step back and at least had an idea immediately why this guy was having a leak coming in his chimney. And it was because he had a rusted galvanized chase cover.
Yep.
And so that's how my story started. And I just made sure that I delivered great service. I go back to that rocket science illustration. The service industry is not rocket science. If you deliver a good service, right, and you do honest work, it's quality workmanship, it'll generate a review, it'll generate a referral, and you can rinse and repeat, right? And so I was able to learn that very early on and develop my reviews. And I was one of the first to really get the Google review started while everyone else was on Angie's List. And that just catapulted me forward to where I was able to get organic calls early on. And so that's how I started my business. And those are wild days. Those are fun days.
Well, it's so funny. I love hearing it because it's very similar to me, right? Didn't have any money, just had a lot of will and ambition. The only thing you can do, you can't wait at home. You got to go knock on doors. I had a top hat at the time. And that's what we all had as the kid. You had your blue button up, but those are great times, and it's not that. And I remember that first time somebody said, yeah, do it. And I'm like, wow, this is exciting. So I love your story. It is, we do have a very similar story, 30 years difference probably. But, so you get going, you name the company, you get going. A lot of things when I talk to people, the first step is who to hire first. Do I hire a helper? Do I hire an office admin? Do I hire 2 apprentices? Do I get a guy that's already got experience? Like what were your steps and what would you do differently if you're talking to a new person on that?
Well, one of the things that I hear is kind of that first initial hurdle for a lot of guys that are in this starting journey. Is getting in that good admin person, or that office manager person. For me, that was really kind of my first large hire. Of course, you need the support to be able to go and execute on the jobs, on the work, right? You sell the job, you got to go perform that job. But at some point, you're very quickly going to run out of bandwidth to answer the phone. And it's amazing. It's not just the chimney industry. It's every service industry. I still see owners out there that are taking calls. I mean, I'm dealing with one right now at my house. I've hired this company to do some work around here, and I've been working directly with the owner, and he's been doing this for 16 plus years. And I'm just thinking, okay, man. And just the other day, I had another conversation with him trying to help him. I was talking to him about some software and whatnot. And he told me that he's still putting in 6.5 work days, a week, sometimes a full 7, no rest, no break, no recovery time in there. And, that's not for everyone, right? That's not for me.
Well, it's also a fallacy that you can't afford to have
Mhm.
somebody. Normally, they do it because they don't think they can afford the other
Mm,
person. Like they're barely making it.
yeah,
I got to work 7 days
yeah,
and I can't afford it. I've got to work 7 days. They
yeah,
think there's going to be this magical time where there's so much money extra from working by yourself that you just
right.
hire somebody and you waste it. What they don't understand
Yeah,
is how it multiplies your time.
that's right.
Yeah. And
It
so,
allows you to invest in the right areas, the
yeah.
areas that you should be investing. And, I think I've probably heard you say something similar to this, Mark, but like every risk I have taken has led to a greater reward down the road.
Yeah.
If I chose to stay in a position of fear or worry, or I'm not willing to take that step, or I'm not willing to make that hire, or I'm not willing to make that transition. We were just talking about this. We were talking about change.
Yeah.
You get to certain plateaus and you realize, okay, I'm not going to grow anymore as a leader, as a person. My operation's not going to grow unless I'm willing to take this risk and level up. And so for me, I remember clearly that first initial level of discomfort was being willing to spend, at that time, it was like 40 grand or something like that,
Yeah.
40 grand on,
It's like a fortune.
my first office manager.
Yeah.
Right. And that was a huge deal. But as soon as I made the decision to hire this person, it opened up a whole new world of possibility.
Well, I think too, when you won't hire that person, you don't realize your own value because
Mm,
if you'll consider yourself as a $500 an hour person, but you're still doing, somebody that you could pay $20, $25 an hour, it's a kind of an old thing. You're like, well, I still got to answer the phone. I still got to write the checks. I still got to do all this. And
yeah.
some of that's fine, but you don't even value your own time enough to go, I need to pay because I'm a specialist. I'm a expert in this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I need to be more of an expert. Let me focus on
Yeah.
that instead of focus on something that I
Yeah.
can pay somebody to go to Home Depot and shop for me or go to the Brickyard. Or those little things are hard to hand off. But once you learn it, you
Yeah.
do it. So
Yeah.
where are like now? So you hired was it helper first and then admin, or a couple helpers and admin? Like when did you make what was that like?
Yeah. Yeah. So at that point in time, I want to say I had two full-time helpers, apprentices, technicians that were working with me. And I was still answering the phone. I was kind of delegating,
Yeah.
hey, go ahead and put this chase cover on. I'll QC it, when you're done. Hey, go ahead and do this crown coat or whatever, or repoint these joints. And I'm answering the phone and I'm logging things. I'm creating estimates, or I'm the one going out doing the sales appointment with the sweep. And, they're kind of tidying up a chase cover for me or whatnot.
Yeah.
And it just got to the point where it's like, yeah, this is not going to work long term, and had to make that hire and save up some money. Right, you stash a little bit away in reserves, and then you make that decision to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And then from there, it continued to be more technicians, and then kind of grooming individuals to be key leaders, grooming them into being, whether that's a superintendent or project manager, that kind of thing. So, and to be honest, Mark, I mean, I think this is healthy for the community here, but it's like, I still have growth that I have to do. Like I still recognize my own limitations at times in bottleneck of when it comes to operations.
For sure.
Like that's kind of where I'm at now. Is I haven't been in the field consistently for a while now, but I'm still very much inundated into operational based decisions, right? And just operations in general. So that's kind of my next thing is I have to make that decision and pull the trigger, take that risk to bring in a key operator so that I can, as Gino Wickman says, fall into more of that visionary seat. At my core, this, like at my core, I'm way more people oriented, sales, marketing, handshake, create the buzz, create the vision, get the people in, inspire them, train, lead, that kind of thing. And there's someone out there that's better than me at operating.
There's somebody better than you at everything. I want to be surrounded by people that make me look stupid. I'm like, great, run this damn thing. So I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find them.
Yeah.
So let's talk challenges, right? So clearly, coming from a couple of guys in a truck, you're in a truck, to office admin, there's all those people that mess up. There's huge mistakes that you wouldn't have made. There's like dumb things that cost you a bunch of money, and like those kind of challenges. That they do sting. That's the thing that keeps most people away from growth. In our industry, the average size company is still 3 people. That's the average size company in the United States in chimneys is 3 people, like 1.5 vans. That's the average. I should say last time I saw it, it's been several years. It's like almost 60%. Only 40% of the companies in the chimney industry get to multi-truck. So what you're talking about is a very stinging, hard thing. And when you go to do it, people are like, oh man, it was better when I did it by myself, or I don't want to have a bunch of headaches with these people. And I don't want to train idiots. And I don't want to train my competition. All those reasons to not grow. And there's a lot of them. What's your reason to grow, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, great question. Well, number one, I don't want to go backwards. And, I do believe in that. If you're not growing, you're dying. I was just reading in Alex Hermosi's book, I think it's 100 Million Offers. 100 Million Offers. The market is growing, every year at 9-10% rate on average. I'm talking stock market. So if your business isn't growing at least that, what's it doing?
You can put your money in that and be okay.
You know what I mean? I could put all the money from the reserves in the stock market and make the same, if not more, if my business is not growing at least 10% every year. So that's like a kind of moment, right? A wake up call. And so, number one, want to make sure that we're growing towards something. My personal why is impact. Okay. There's also sub whys behind that. And, those are to empower others, give other people opportunity. I really enjoy having a place where I can have personal impact in my team's lives. And then I want to have impact in our community. We've had a couple of different jobs recently where we've been able to give back, and we've been able to partner with an organization and literally donate our time and energy and resources. And then there's also aspects that it's fun. Not every day is fun, but like it's fun to learn these things. It's fun to grow. It's fun to be freed up to new challenges and make mistakes and learn from them. And like, there is no way I would ever be like in the position that I'm in, learn what I have learned, right? The skills that I've learned, business that I've learned, had I not taken this risk and gone through the pain. Pain's an excellent teacher. And it's almost scary. Like, it really is scary to me to think about like where I would be right now had, God not led me down this road. It's kind of like, man, I would not have learned any of these lessons. I would not know these skills to the extent that I know them right now. So there's a lot of value in that. But my personal why is impact. I want to be able to grow my impact and grow my reach. And I hope one day, I'll be in a position where I can do a little bit more of kind of what you do, where you've been able to help a lot of people succeed. You've been able to inspire a lot of people. And, I've seen, Mark, in you, how your heart goes even beyond that at a micro level. How you've individually impacted me by your generosity. Just going on these accelerator trips and just seeing your level of generosity of getting back. That's powerful stuff.
Well, thank you.
It shows your heart. It shows your character. And so, one of those things I'm praying for is just, hey, please give me more impact. And if that's not in the form of the chimney industry, hopefully one day it's something else.
Well, thank you for that. And you are that guy. Even in our group, you're very impactful. And we all get busy, and there's times we're all very involved. There's times we're all got our head down and working, but you are always looking to help. You're very active in that. You're on this podcast. As soon as I said, hey, you want to do it? And you're like, yes, your answer is yes. Now what's the question? And I think the one thing too about you is you really, you're a mover. Like you're not one of those guys, we call them an ask hole, where they ask a lot of questions and don't do anything with it. Like, you ask questions And dude, you're implementing
Yeah.
and there's a few guys like you out there that are really good at implementing, and you'll run into a problem. You're like, hey, I don't do that. I did that and I tried this. You're quick to move, and then also you're helpful. You're like, this works for us, this doesn't.
Yeah.
And so back to some of the pain points. What would you do differently? Today's Sam versus the Sam that started 317. What would you tell that guy?
Oh my goodness.
Did you read a lot of books?
Yeah.
You're in a lot of groups, or you're
Yeah.
very much
Well, okay, hands down, the obvious one that sticks out to me is I would have started in seeking out certification and getting plugged in with the schools a lot faster.
Right.
I'm embarrassed, by how long it took me to really get plugged in. I spent way too long just kind of, I guess, yeah, Wild West, right? Lone Ranger style. Just, hey, this is what works for me. This is what works for us. So therefore, that's the Bible. And I've had success with it this way. And it's like, you don't know what you don't know, right? Until you start getting plugged in and you realize, oh, you should be doing a level 2 inspection. I should be getting in the attic. And,
I remember
like,
the first time I heard Jim Brewer and several guys talk, and I'd been in the business a long time. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. I thought I knew a lot. I knew I didn't know everything, but I thought I knew a lot. So I heard a bunch of these guys talk. I'm like, oh my gosh, I better just pay attention.
Well, and before I forget, you were mentioning earlier about, how I'm a quick adopter, and I just want to give one example of how I've been able to learn from guys like yourself and the education and apply it quickly. And I really would love for anyone listening to this that's not doing this to think twice. And one of the biggest, clearest takeaways for me at one of these meetings we were at was when Alan Rush was talking about, I believe, in the 2 men in a truck model. And if you're not doing that, you're missing out on opportunity because you're slower. You're putting all the burden on one guy. You're not as efficient. You're not providing enough time for the lead technician to do his job, which is to build a compelling solution to fix people's pain points.
That's good.
Right? They're calling us out there, not because they want a chimney sweep. They want to know that they can safely use their fire when they light up for the first time. Nobody wants to burn their house down. They don't want smoke coming back to the room. And so we got to be providing people a great level of service. And one way that we do that is by giving them a worthwhile solution to fix their pain points. So I heard that, and it was like, yep, we are applying that day one I get back. And we did. And ever since we applied the 2 men in a truck model, we've been safer, we've been more efficient, or we've increased our appointment revenue. Like, there's been nothing but good. And I know that there is a group of owners out there that right now are really struggling to get past that mind block because they're thinking, oh man, I've always done it this way. Like, this is more overhead. This is more direct costs, that we're going to take on. Like, am I really going to pay a guy X amount of dollars an hour or whatever it is to put him in a truck, And the answer is yeah.
I love that. And so with that, let's list, you mentioned Traction from Gino Wickman. You've mentioned a couple of books. What books would you say were the most impactful for somebody listening or for you that taught you lessons that you took away from?
I don't know if you guys have heard of The Wealthy Gardener, John Saforic.
I've heard The Wealthy Barber.
This one's The Wealthy Gardener. And basically, if you're not going to read the book of Proverbs in the Bible, you need to read The Wealthy Gardener, because basically it's a book of Proverbs. And this guy does an amazing job of just laying out his personal journey to wealth and freedom, basically in a story format that's matched with parable and then real life example. So it's a pretty cool side by side. That one's been impactful, of course. Your book, Mark, really kind of got my ears open to just absorbing as much knowledge and information as I could. Right now, I'm really enjoying Alex Hormozy's book, 100 Million Offers. Of course, you just gotta give it up for How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, it's just that book is gold.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
I need to revisit that one every year, and I don't, but I need to.
So one of the books you talked about was Traction.
Yeah.
And do you go through the Traction? Do you do it yourself, or do you pay an implementer?
Yeah,
How do
so
you do it?
I used an implementer, and that was really helpful. And so part of my story is we hit a point as an organization where basically my employees were kind of looking at me and going, "Dude, you got to change something, or we're all gone." I mean,
Why is
and
that? Like, what was happening?
there were just so many operational breakdowns, I
Yeah,
want to say. You
right.
know, like
Everybody has to get there, though.
here's what it is. Here's what it is. I was running my business like a musician. I was not running my business like an owner of a serious business, like a CEO.
Wow,
And the day that that clicked, everything changed.
that is
And
good.
I have a key employee. His name's Jake Hibbett. Shout out to Jake. He was the winner of the Chimney Chase Dash at NCSG this year.
Oh, nice.
But Jake really was heavily influential at talking to a couple of my employees at that time and just getting a general consensus that like, hey, Sam, you need to do something. Things need to change. And that was a big wake up call for me. And honestly, I thank God for that because it forced me to become a better leader. And since then, I really do believe that I've grown. And part of that change was me going to my coach and then implementer and agreeing we need to bring on Traction.
Okay.
And ever since we brought on Traction, man, and created a safe space, as Simon Sinek talks about, for team members to voice their concerns, to bring up issues. Holy cow, did we have an issue board going on? I mean, it was deep. But you know what, Mark? By doing that, I learned so much. I learned so
Totally.
much about myself. I learned so much about the crappy organization I was running. I
Yeah.
learned so much. And then it was a matter of executing on solving one
Yeah.
issue at a time, and
Yeah.
then delegating a to-do on that, and then delegating a rock on that, and then delegating 3 more to-dos on that. And you would not believe, I mean, looking back at our software, we've completed like hundreds
Yeah.
of issues, checking them off. And we got to a point where we got so efficient at this that it was no longer a board of 50 issues. It got down to like 3.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew, holy cow, does this work?
Yeah. For
Now
those
it
of you
is,
that don't know, just look up Gino Wickman. The book's called Traction. There's all kinds of books on it. There, and it is really, it's the entrepreneur operating system. And it basically helps you, one, forecast what the team wants. And everybody then breaks it down into very bite-sized, what they call rocks and
yeah,
level 10 meetings and a
yeah,
process to get stuff done, get traction in your
yeah.
business. And we're getting ready to do a reset on ours. We kind of came through a bunch, and now we're at the end of the year, and we did a software issue. Oh, we did all these issues, and we got them done. And now we got to set next year's goals and rocks and everything. We're like
Yeah.
doing a hard reset because we had to stop for a minute while we went through all these things. But so for you, you got it narrowed down. You would say that was something that really got you going. And so what's next for you? Like how big is this? Well, one, you don't have to, but if you want to say like kind of what size company you are now to what, not revenue, but how many trucks?
Yeah. So like, we're a team of 10, baby. So
that's a good size. I love that size.
Next goal's 20. Yeah.
That's a sweet size.
Yeah.
You got enough things going. And everybody I always say is kind of like a SEAL team because everybody does a lot of things. You get a few
that's right. That's
but
how
I love
it feels.
that feeling. Yeah.
That's how it feels too.
Yeah. What's next for you guys? What do you want to have happen?
Yeah, so right now, I've brought on another consultant who's working with me to help us lay out a plan for 2025.
Yep.
I'm in a unique space right now in my leadership where I've just been very honest with myself and with my team, to where, I believe what got us to where we are today isn't going to take us to where we want to be tomorrow, right? And so, trying to be very real on my own personal limitations, my need to raise my leadership lid, and so that looks like bringing in a consultant and then trying to figure out how we can onboard and bring in some kind of key ops person, whether that's a director of ops or a GM, that type of thing. And just working through the process of figuring that out. But yeah, we are at a size right now where we definitely are not losing touch with one another. Feels
Yeah.
like a very intimate
Yeah.
team, but we're not quite to that, 18-wheeler semi size where one wheel can come off and you're still just fine. But we're also not just the one truck operation where
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
goes
The
down, we're just
unicycle.
totally paralyzed. Yeah. And that's another reason why that multiple guys in a truck just really, really helps, is if someone's down, you can just keep rolling. So, been extremely helpful. So that's a key development that we're working on right now. And then we talked a little bit in our last conversation about some onboarding stuff, and we got that ironed out with Connect Team. But from there, I'm in the process of building out even additional training, additional courses to really kind of get our guys specialized in
Yeah.
the 317 way. And
Absolutely.
I'm learning. I don't know why it, takes me so long to get here, but I'm just learning that so much of the service industry revolves around how quickly you can get technicians hired.
Especially
Um,
now,
yeah.
because
Oh my
you have
gosh.
to get them. You have to go speed, because we used to say you're going to be with somebody 5, 10 years. They probably aren't. So to get somebody somebody that's brings money back into the company and doesn't expose you to a lot of problems, you have to speed this thing up, and
Yep.
it's a different game.
Yeah.
So talk about that for a second, like your leadership, how your leadership skills have changed, and
Yeah.
what you've learned as a young leader, leading men in blue collar work versus, musicians. You're in the drummer and you're in the back. But by the way,
Yeah.
you are a great drummer. I've
Yeah.
watched some of your
Oh, thank
videos,
you.
and you're very talented. So it'd be hard to give up
Yeah.
something you were really an expert at and exceptional at, to now
Thank you.
coaching and running blue collar guys who, you can't get them out of bed. Sometimes they don't have a license, like, why are you doing dumb stuff? Like,
Dude.
we did a lot of dumb stuff as musicians, but blue collar guys, I mean, I
Yeah.
love them. I got a
It's
heart for them.
real.
I'm one of them. But talk about leading blue collar
Mm.
people.
Yeah, that's a great question. Just to go very practical here, because the pain is real. First of all, you got to get people to show up to these interviews. And one thing that we figured out for our market is we have to double book our interviews. And in fact, we triple book them because the amount of just no shows is just unbelievable.
If you got a 1 o'clock, you book. Everybody comes in at 1.
That's exactly right. And I kid you not, we have had times where we've had 3 interviews scheduled for the same time, start time. Okay. Not the 1 hour flex time. It's 1 o'clock and nobody shows up. I mean, it's wild.
And if 3 people show up, great. They're there.
Yeah,
They
that's
see the
exactly right. I'm not
competition.
wasting
Give me a
my
few
time.
minutes. Yeah, I
That's
love it.
exactly right. But look, at the end of the day, there's this balance of people want to have a clear direction. They want to follow a strong leader with a strong vision. So there's that component. And I really believe in to be clear is kind. And there were so many years where I was just ambiguous. I was gray. And as soon as I started to be clear, and Traction helped me with this, I started to
Mm.
gain respect and I started to gain followers,
Yeah.
right? But it can't just be all truth and discipline and you broke this rule, so there's consequences. It can't just be all ruler lordship style. I mean, it has to be met with love. And so finding that balance for me is the key to my leadership of where can I show my guys, hey, I do expect the world of you, but it's also going to be met with grace. And I've been growing in that area because I used to just be all grace. And when I was all grace and all love
Dude,
and all feels, man, I got run over. I got
I
taken
have to say
advantage of.
something. I have
Yeah.
to say it now because I just saw it in your face. I've known you for a while, and I can see a change in your directness right
Mm,
now. Like,
mm,
as you're talking to me about this,
yeah.
you were more grace, and you and I had a conversation sitting at a uh, oceanside picnic table about
Yeah.
this.
Well,
And man, you can see it in you. You have taken that in, and it's not like you're not a nice person, but your directness and your leadership look has
mm,
you've gone through it. You've gone through
yeah.
enough that you realize grace is a great thing, but it'll get you run over in leadership. And
Yeah.
you got to have grace with, like you said, total truth. I thought it was interesting
Yeah.
how you said that, but that how is exactly what you want with a heart
Mm,
for the
that's
person,
right.
whether it's the hard thing. And the best thing you can do for them is, like you said, is clarity and direction and also accountability. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's hard for me.
Accountability.
We want to love up on them, but man, you've got to hold them accountable.
Well,
You can
thanks,
do it.
Mark. I've increased the accountability, but with that, I've also increased the love. I still check in with my guys. I still ask them how they're doing. I take a personal interest in how they're doing, right? But at the same time, with that, I've increased the expectation. And again, going back to be clear is kind, right? So something that traction will help you with is getting everybody a number, everybody a scorecard, everybody an expectation, so they know what does winning look like when I work for 317. What does it look like? Because if you don't know what it looks like, I mean, is that really fair to them? Because now
Yeah.
it's just subjective winning, right? It's like, well, today you won, but tomorrow you're not, or yesterday you didn't, right? Well, based
Yeah.
on what, right? Well, just based on which side of the bed I woke up on this morning, right? That just doesn't work, and that's kind of how things used to be with me. It
Well,
was
it's
like, well,
how
what
most
what
companies still run.
yeah, what kind of mood is Sam in today? So that was a major thing. But Mark, I got to go back to what you said about how you've noticed a change in me. I don't know if you remember the words that you shared, but I think it's worth everyone to hear this. And you said to me, Sam, you're going to have to develop an armor, and one day you will develop this armor. You'll develop a skin to where as these arrows come, they'll just
Yeah.
kind of ricochet right off of you,
Yeah.
right? And you'll be able to stay on mission. And that was one of those nuggets that I
Yeah.
took home with me and I applied right away. And I thought, you know what? That's right. I'm
Yeah.
all flesh and bone here. There's no armor, right? And so the day that I started being clear, the day I started rolling out accountability, benchmarks, expectations, holding guys accountable to that, and then, yes, firing guys when they don't perform or where they don't live up to our core values, people realize, okay, Sam means business here.
Yeah.
And I do.
That's awesome. You can see it, dude. You can see it. And what I talked about too was you have to develop it so it can't get to you internally. It
Yeah.
can't hurt who you are, and you could still have that good heart for people. If
Yeah.
you expose the heart on the outside and it's getting shot up, you get jaded. But if you'll develop that armor, you can still have a heart for people. It's
Yep.
just you can't get affected by the nonsense, and you don't suffer fools, and you're just like, I know what this is, and I'm not going to let it get to me. I'm not going to, when I meet a new person, I'm not going to be jaded because I know most of you guys don't work out and you're going to screw up.
Yep.
I always come to you and give you my best right off the bat, no matter how many thousands of people have either done something, not thousands, but lots of people done me wrong, have screwed the whole thing up, taken from me, stole from me, whatever. I don't care. That all is back here. I'm going to give you my best right off the bat
That's right.
until you prove
That's
me
right.
wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're developing it, dude. I it's very inspiring to see that, and you taking that to the next group of young men is going to be it'll be your mission, and you're right before you can see it.
Yeah.
But
You were asking me about challenges, man, and hands down, challenges 90% of the time revolve around people, right? We're all messy. We all bring in our problems, and it's navigating those, managing those, helping people to raise up, to have strong mindsets, to overcome challenges. I mean, not to go down a rabbit trail, but there's just I think that we live in just softer times. Like we're just expectations are higher, output is less, and we live in a instant gratification culture now, right? And in literally less than 24 hours, I can have whatever I want at my doorstep, and we're just with a click of a button.
Yeah.
And we have all these messagings that are coming to us through social media platforms and whatnot of what our lives should look like, how much money we should make, what we should do with our free time. And before we know it, we just think the world should revolve around us. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, man, I don't ever think like that. I mean, I have my own ways that I think like that and struggle with those things. But, managing those expectations, right? And managing that work culture of, yes, the days are going to be hard. Yes, we're going to have jobs that don't go well. Yes, we're going to fail. But what are we ultimately here for?
Right.
What are we working towards? What's our common goal? And the answer is not, all right, this is so hard, I'm just going to give up and walk away and do something else. We don't
Yes.
learn anything by doing that.
Totally. A lot of times when the room is boiling over, your people are just so frustrated. One of my favorite lines is ladies or guys, this is just chimneys.
Yeah.
We're just talking chimneys
Yeah.
on a level of what's important.
Yeah.
And this person happened wanting to have a fire in their, as a luxury, like it's just chimneys. And and that's another one of my armors. Like I will never take it. I mean, yes, if we mess up, don't get me wrong, I take my business seriously, but not to the level. And like a lot of my employees, I'm like, don't take this home and don't take this into you. Don't make you jaded and hate these things. None of it's worth it. That's not what this is.
That's
We're
a good
trying
message.
to help people, and just don't let it in. Don't let it in that much. Of course we have to care. And of course we have to take care of people and be good. But it can't, don't take this home and don't dread coming into work. Just water off a duck's back, just move on, roll through it. It'll go away. We won't even think about this next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right, man. Yeah. Good word.
Well, man, I know we normally spend 30 minutes. You've been giving me an extra 15. I like to talk to you forever. Anything else like in the future, like what do you, like you said, leadership things and growing the company? Do you think, does that look like other cities? Does it look like just a bigger footprint where you are? Does it look like other businesses, other entrepreneurial journeys? What do you think? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, well, definitely there's always a niche for additional entrepreneurial journeys. I mean, the chimneys is not where this is going to stop for me. I think the chimney industry, there's so much room for growth. There's so much opportunity right here. But there's other things too that I'm fascinated with and by. I'm kind of I'm a Tommy Mello guy at some level where, he's a firm believer of like, hey, maximize what you can do where you're at. And I'm in the Indianapolis market, and there's still just so much opportunity here. There's some saturation, and we're all kind of clawing over each other. But at the same time, there's also a lot of untapped potential, and I still see a bright future ahead of us and in our company. And before we thinking about it, expanding out to another market, I think there's still a lot more growth and opportunity that we can do here. But again, going back to impact, if I have a guy or come across the right individual that is looking for an opportunity to expand or open up a new market, I'm absolutely going to explore that with them. And you've had a lot of experience with that yourself.
I did want to say one more thing, and it's a little bit backing up, but I always was impressed at your level of knowing your numbers for your business and your profitability numbers. And, in our groups, we share percentages, not numbers necessarily, but you're always very impressive on your profitability level and how you run the business. Because a lot of guys run broke, it doesn't matter how much they make. And sometimes everybody can get tight on cash, but in general, what's your philosophy about profitability, and what percentages are you looking for in a service-based business? What do you really shoot for, like direct labor and your marketing? Some of your percentage numbers do you think are healthy?
Yeah, well, in terms of marketing, there's different philosophies. If you're really trying to grow, you need to be 7 to 10%, right? You got to be pushing those dollars out there for growth mode, right? If you want to keep it steady, I would say no less than 3%, get it up to 5, get it up to 6, right? If you
Yep,
want to
I
keep
agree.
those phones ringing. If you're anything less than 3% on your marketing spend, I mean, you can't really expect a whole lot. I mean, I know that there's guys out there that are like, well, man, we're 100% referral generated. I mean, that's great. And I rode that train for a while, but like, how much is that really going to allow you to grow? How fast are you going to be able to scale? Are you going to be one that just kind of maintains at the 9% growth, or are you going to be seeing 20, 30, 40, 100% growth? I mean, there's guys in our industry that and I know that are doing 100x,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
crazy stuff. So, anyway,
And
I
like, so on that, I totally agree with your numbers on marketing.
yeah,
And then obviously what your marketing is, you got to make sure you're getting the spin for it.
yeah.
On the other side, on direct labor and percentages, you're looking for like overhead and direct labor. What do you like to see on jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. So, making sure I don't get this backwards here because I've kind of been in the weeds here recently, not in my numbers. Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say is if your gross, okay, gross, not net, all right, for us, if our gross is below 50%, okay, I know that we're getting pretty close to not making money on that job.
Yep.
Okay. So I typically want to make sure that our gross is between 55, 60, if ideally, okay.
Yep.
Gross profit, okay.
Yep.
So that kind of gives you an idea of
Yep.
where our direct costs we're trying to keep it. Now it's hard. Do we hit that every time?
Oh,
Oh,
of
absolutely
course,
not.
of course not.
Absolutely not. Jobs are not bid correctly.
Yeah. Of course.
We didn't,
But in general,
but in general,
you're
yeah, that's what we,
shooting for 60. If you can come
yeah,
out with 55 or
yeah,
above 50, I
yeah,
totally agree. I remember a lot of chimney companies operate about 30% margin. There's nothing really left. Once you're at 30%, there's really nothing left for the owner.
no,
You're going to pay taxes. You want to try to come out with
yeah,
15-20% profit. There's
yeah,
nothing. You have to be at 50 to be
yeah.
able to get to a health, like you said, above the stock market and doing all your stuff and having money to invest. You've got to be above 50% gross.
It's expensive to run a business, right?
Yeah.
And it's not getting any cheaper. I mean, the early days of doing this stuff, we didn't have to advertise the way that we do now. And
Insurance. Insurance. My
insurance is
gosh.
killer. The benefits can be killer.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to make more money, and so it just adds up really, really fast. Now what I'll say is like, some of the numbers that are strong for us, frankly, are due to the fact that I'm not paying a GM right now. I'm
Yeah.
not paying a director of operations, and all of that just goes straight to overhead. So, I'd say where I would encourage people listening, look at two key elements here. Number one, are you pricing your jobs correctly? Because even though we may be doing fine, we still compete against a lot of low ballers around here. I
Yes.
mean, there's even been what I would say a staple name in our market that's been around much longer than we have, that used to be kind of the name. And recently I've come across a few of their quotes from my guys, and I've thought, man, how are they making any money on this?
And
And
they
maybe
might
they're
not be.
not. And usually,
Yeah.
and sometimes if you're asking that question, they probably aren't,
They don't know.
and desperate times call for desperate measures. But like, there's just been some jobs where I've had to tell customers, even friends, I've had to just flat out say like, hey, I'm sorry, but I cannot compete with that price, because I'm not in business to not make money. And I want to be very clear about this. If you're not making money, then you're always going to have crap trucks, crap tools. You're never going to be able to pay your people right. You're never going to be able to take them to conferences. You're never going to be able to fly them down to Florida to go to NCSG conferences. Like, you're just not going to be able to do this stuff, right?
Right.
And so, part of the way that we serve our team as leaders is by making sure that our sales guys and our price books are set up for success to do that kind of thing. And then you're able to give back. And that was one thing that you encouraged me. It's like, hey, get this stuff right, and then you'll be in a position one day to give back. So I would say, number one, check your pricing structure. And then number two, pay attention to your overhead.
Yep.
Like, this is an area that a lot of guys don't really understand because they've never taken the time to actually go line item by line item and look at their overhead costs. And some guys are spending tons of money in areas that they have no clue. Like it's backdoor now, and it's out of sight, out of mind. And you pay attention to those overhead costs, you can trim some fat and start finding dollars that you can invest back into your team or equipment or tools or trucks or whatever it is, to help yourself set up for success.
Dude, you're so good. So good. Good stuff, man. I always love talking to you. Thank you for taking time out before the holidays. I know you got you got little ones in there and you've been
Yep.
working all day. And so thank you for
Yeah.
this. And I appreciate you, man. We'll talk soon.
Dude, it's a pleasure. I was thinking before I got on here, I was like, man, we feed off each other. Your energy is just contagious for me. I get amped up when I talk to you, and hopefully I do the same for you
You
too,
do.
man. So
Sometimes I'm sitting here like a little shaking. I'm like, oh, it's so good. Yeah. Yeah, man. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
yeah, appreciate you, Mark. We'll see you later, man.
Have a good night, buddy. See ya.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, that's our show. Hope you like it. Hope you like as much as I do. I always love talking to Sam. He's got that energy that just keys off my energy, and mainly, his heart to help people and help his community, and be graceful with others, and bring them up and cheer them on. And we need more of that. I think that's what we're here for, is to really help the next people up, and cheer them on as they go through, and make this a better place. So thank you, guys. Thank you for tonight. We'll talk to you soon.